This is the plaintiff, Charlotta McCaskill. She says she prepaid the defendant a broker's fee, and the woman promised she'd be able to find her a place to live in. Turns out the defendant was full of it because she couldn't find her a suitable place, and now the woman won't return her money. She has no other choice but to take her here to court to get back the $900 she's rightfully owed. This is the defendant, Willette Daniels. She says the plaintiff lied on her application form about her income and about her ability to pay $1,000 a month in rent. She certainly did her part trying to help this young lady, but the woman's a liar. And since she forfeited the apartment she set up for her to live in, she also forfeited her fee. She's accused of not delivering.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says she prepaid a broker's fee to find an apartment. The broker never found her an apartment and now won't return the fee. But the defendant says the reason she didn't find a place is because she lied on her application. It's the case of give me shelter or give me the commission.
Thank you, Douglas. Charlotta McCaskill.
Yes.
You are suing Willette Daniels and her realty company. You've asked us not to mention the company name, for $900 in broker fees that you paid her that you feel that she did not earn and should return to you. Tell me what's going on.
I was in a homeless shelter, and the shelter I was living in recommended Ms. Daniels and her services in order to help me find an affordable apartment. So I met with her in February and, and paid her the $900 to help me find an affordable apartment. I was a part of also a program from the Coalition for the Homeless called the Rental Assistance Program. So I had a deadline of 45 days to find an apartment for them to help subsidize my rent. So she knew I was on that deadline. I had a certain amount of time to find an apartment.
How were they going to subsidize your rent? How much of it would they pay?
They would pay $300 a month, and I would pay the balance.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So did you fill out any paperwork when you met with Ms. Daniels?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
May I see it?
Thank you. Sure.
Okay. So go on.
So we met on February 18th. I sent an email the day I met her to confirm that we had this meeting, and that was a pleasure meeting her, and I was looking forward to working with her. And if she needed further, information, she should contact me.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
It says here under employment that you work as a housing outreach specialist.
That's correct.
So you were already a housing outreach specialist when you became homeless?
That is correct.
And this is a private corporation that you were working for as a housing outreach specialist?
It's a nonprofit organization.
A nonprofit. And
That's
they couldn't help you get a home?
Well, it would be in some ways a conflict of interest.
A conflict of interest? What, are you kidding me? Like, there's no, the whole thing is bizarre the irony of it can't be lost on you.
Of course.
All right, in any event. So now, all right, you meet her and you fill out these documents.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Then a month went by, didn't hear anything. I sent another email, trying to find out what was going on. And my deadline for the coalition was coming up because they only gave me 45 days to find an apartment in order to subsidize my rent.
So it was how many days before then, by the time you got exasperated?
It was 30 days. It was a month.
Okay.
Right. So I'm saying, well, what's going on? So then she finally said, oh, okay, well, I'll send you. I have a place I'm going to send you. So when I went to that appointment in the Bronx, the lady had all my paperwork there. So she did send the paperwork there. But the problem is that the rent was $850. My contract with the coalition says a maximum of $750. So
let me see the contract with the coalition.
Right. So here's the issue. When I first met Ms. Daniels, we did discuss.
And it's the coalition themselves who referred you to her?
No, it was the shelter I was living in, George Daly House, which I have a letter from them. And
okay, so did you ever give her this and tell her my cap is $7?
The first time I met her.
Is there anywhere in the paperwork that they fill out that they tell you the max rent they can afford?
No, there isn't.
That's right, because I looked through all this.
No, there isn't.
So what ends up happening? According to you, she's showing you places that are $850.
She never showed me anything, Your Honor. What happened is
she gave you the name of a place that was $850.
Yes, she did not personally take me to any apartments or anything like that. She sent me to another agency that has affordable apartments. So now when we first met, we discussed the possibility that I may have to come out of my pocket with extra money because she was saying that the $750 was too low to find me an apartment. So I said to
You
her—
mean under the table?
Right, exactly. So I was willing to pay an additional $50 a month under the table. I was willing to do that. So at the first meeting, I did say that I was willing to pay an additional $50 a month under the table. When I had the appointment in the Bronx, it was a whole $100 over what I was expected to pay. And the contract that the woman was offering me was for $850. There's no way the coalition would have accepted in writing a contract for an apartment for $850. It wasn't going to happen. So it was not a legitimate offer, and there was no way I could accept it. So, that's what happened.
So you ended up going to someone else?
So what happened is I called the Coalition for the Homeless, my case manager there, because she offered me a broker before when I first met them. But
instead of taking her broker, you took whose broker?
The broker that was recommended to me by the shelter I was living in at George Daly House.
So then you called her for her broker. You used her broker.
Yes,
her
I
broker
did.
didn't charge you up front.
Not a dime.
Her broker found you a place.
Within 1 week, they found me an apartment.
That was
for
how much?
$750.
Okay, and how much you paying under the table there?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What's going on? She says that you're keeping her fee, but that you didn't find her a place.
Okay, Miss McCosco's not being honest. When I met with her, I did tell her that with the companies that I work with, that the rent was about $800 and over. And I did explain that to her, and she agreed.
Okay. Did you know that according to the assistance she's getting, she couldn't go beyond $750?
She was told that she may not be able to use that, and she agreed.
By whom?
I told her that, and she agreed.
That she may not be able to use the assistance?
That's right, because of her income, and not only that.
No, but the assistance they were giving her, and they knew her income. But they said that if you get an apartment, am I mistaken? No, I don't think so. The assistance they were already telling you, we're going to give it to you if you get an apartment that's not more than $750.
That's what they told her. But when it comes to landlords, who's to say who's going to accept it?
That's a different issue. So you're telling her, the places I have are, according to you, you tell her they're $800 and above.
That's correct.
Then according to her, she tells me that in fact she did tell you, that sounds like the truth, because she did tell you she'll pay you $50. But the place that you're showing her isn't $50 under the table. It's $75 under the table. And according to her, $100 under the table.
Right. And that's another lie. I never told her I would pay, that she would have to give me $50 under the table.
Well, then how is it, if you know, just a moment, if you know that she's going to get $300 of her rent paid, which is hard to pass up. I want $300 of my mortgage paid.
I know, me too.
All right, so if you know she's going to get that, if she just stays in the $750 category, who in their right mind is going to go to the $800 category and pay and end up paying $400 more, $350 more? For rent every month. She wants this $300. She wants you to stay in the $750. You then tell her, I may not be able to do that. All you do is give her the name of one place and say, call them. And then she calls them. And then according to her, they tell her $850.
No.
Either way, we all know it's above the $750.
No.
But one of the things you said in your answer to the complaint was that she told you she wanted to look at places that were $1,000 and that you had recorded that.
Yes, she
I don't
did.
see her saying anywhere in her paperwork that she wants places of $1,000.
Okay.
Where in the paperwork do they say what their max is?
It's not there, ma'am.
Why not? Why isn't there a line for that?
I would definitely put that down in the future.
You need to do business differently. It needs to be in there.
She did say that to me. And
Watch this. Did you say that to her?
Of course not.
So if the broker doesn't find the person a place, is the broker entitled to a fee?
Yeah, no.
Hey, you covered all the bases there. What do you think?
I don't think they should make anything at all, honestly. Like, the person just has to find, like, a nice place to live, and,
So, but if the broker finds a place, but it's not to the tenant's satisfaction, does the tenant have to pay?
No, I think the broker has to keep looking, because that's, like, their whole job.
That's the whole job. Going inside the courtroom.
She did say that to me, and I did tell her that I would try my best to find her an apartment.
Okay, but your contract says this. If she is accepted for an apartment, did you apply for the apartment and were you accepted?
I could not apply for the apartment.
Because of the number. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any proof she was, quote, accepted for the apartment?
She had an interview with
No, that's not the same as being accepted. Do you know that she applied and was accepted? And if so, you need to prove it to me. Because that's one way you get the money. And the other way is if she obtains an address, apartment, or services that lead her to obtain an apartment. In other words, if that landlord had referred her to another place, you'd still get the commission. But I don't have either one of those two circumstances happening. So why would you be able to keep the money? In other words, let's assume it's exactly as you say, which is You show her, you give her a lead on a place and she just doesn't like it. Forget everything else. She just says, this stinks. And she doesn't like it. She still has to pay you?
Okay, I didn't just give her name. She had an interview.
Okay,
She
so
went
what?
to the
So I
interview,
can have an interview. I can call and get an interview.
And she walked out on the interview.
Yes, because the money was wrong. She couldn't afford it. She was being actually fiscally responsible.
Your Honor, if I
but
may.
no, but you think you need to interject? But what kills me is if she had walked out because she just didn't like it. She doesn't have to live where you tell her to live. It's America. She walks in there and she looks at it and she says, ew. And she turns around. She still owes you a fee. Don't be ridiculous. Pay this lady back her money. $900. Verdict for the plaintiff.
Don't be ridiculous, says the judge. You'll be paying back her fee. Do you realize now that you weren't entitled to keep that fee?
I believe I was.
Even though the judge just ruled against you?
Yes,
Why?
because there was a service done, and she didn't tell the truth.
What didn't she tell the truth about?
The fact that I
What
made the
entitles you to
appointment.
keep this fee?
The appointment was made. She got up and she walked out. She told me that she could pay up to $1,000, but when she comes to court, the story is different. Her income that I have on my documents, which I didn't get the chance to show the judge, different amounts of income for different applications. So, what can I say?
What can you say? All right, right down this way.
Okay.
All right, so how does this moment feel for you?
It feels great.
Yeah?
Yes, excellent.
Go ahead, tell us about
I
it.
really feel vindicated because, Ms. Daniels completely lied about everything that happened. And she didn't find me an apartment. So she doesn't deserve to get the money, to keep the money.
Could you believe that she tried to keep this money on you?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, taking advantage of someone who's homeless. I mean, it's crazy.
All right, Harvey?
The broker's saying, well, I'm entitled to a fee because I did the work. Well, the broker is wrong. The tenant has to find a place that's suitable for the tenant. And that's the tenant's decision on whether it's good enough. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.